Hello, welcome once again to It's a Frankly Hairy podcast. I'm your host, Frank Weber. So glad you could join me again this week in the forest. Have a lot of things to talk about this week. They weren't easy to come up with, but we'll kind of just tick them off the list here, one by one, just to expound on a little bit about what I was saying last week about classic movies, and the Channel Turner classic movies in particular. It's become a real treasure trove of movies that I don't know if were necessarily would be called classic, but they are old and they do have a place in my heart. And since I recorded the last show, the Robert Hayes classic from the early 1980s called "Take This Job and Shove It," named after the Johnny Paycheck song, was recently aired on that channel. Y'all thought I was going to say Airplane, which I do. I love Airplane. I love both of the Airplane movies, but he was in another movie between them. While it's dated in many ways, a lot of the themes still run true to this day about corporate greed and executives and workers potentially being replaced by machines and raising the level of production, all those sorts of things, even though the movie is technically dated. So I just thought I would pass that along first to get the show started. And I don't really have a lot of by the way, that movie has quite a cast in it, including Barbara Hershey, who was also in Hoosiers. And speaking of the Hoosiers, the Indiana University football team won its first national championship in football last night. So I have to send out a congratulations to them. It's very impressive what they did this year. Had to hold off Miami. I thought they would beat them a little bit more than they did, but again, just an impressive win, an impressive season, great talent, great coaching. If a school that was not known for its football, because it's historically a big basketball school and a basketball state, can go undefeated and win a national championship in football, then pretty much anybody has a chance. And so I'm really have to look forward to the future for my team, Texas Tech, and your team, of course, as well, whoever that may be. Sure seems like everybody has a chance these days in college football, although there is questions, of course, about conference favoritism and such. And not to take anything away from their win, but Indiana is in the Big Ten, which is, along with the SEC, seems to be one of the big dogs. And one of the issues that continue to persist in college football. And by the way, I watched the game last night. I didn't see Laura Rutledge. I thought she would have been there for sure. My favorite ESPN sideline reporter. So I don't know what happened there, but obviously there's issues facing college football going forward, and I don't really want to get into those today. I've talked about some of them before. And another issue that I will talk about real quick before we get into some meteor subjects. Meat as in meat, not meteor as in falling from the sky. But also I needed to comment too on the NFL playoffs real quick. Those of you who have listened also know that I'm something of a critic of the National Football League, but they've had their first two rounds of the playoffs. And I believe those rounds are no longer properly named. I don't know if any of you longtime NFL fans can know exactly what I'm talking about or agree with me, but not only are the playoffs a little bit more watered down, but the wild card round and the divisional round are no longer properly named, because the wild card round has half the teams are actually division winners. And only two of the division winners, the number one seeds, get all the division winner perks. It used to not be that way. There used to be a little bit more team-wise, there used to be a little bit more of a perk for winning your division, and now, like I said, half the teams in that round, that wild card round, are division winners. And some of them lose that game, so we wound up getting a lot of wild cards in the next round, which is the divisional round. So that's just something, little observation that I wanted to point out to you. And those of you who've been watching for at least 30, maybe 35 years or more, know that it used to mean a little bit something more to win a division besides just getting guaranteed one home game. So anyway, I just wanted to make that observation for you there first. Anyway, I have to make a comment on what the heck is going on, what in the wide world of sports is going on in Minneapolis, St. Paul these days. I haven't really spent a lot of time in Minnesota at all. I think I've been to the Minneapolis airport a couple of times. Like a lot of states, there's a lot of beautiful rural area. I still have a friend who's told me, Jeffrey Hayes, who's told me that there's actually more than 10,000 natural lakes there. And that sounds very impressive. Especially compared to here in Texas where we don't have a lot of natural lakes. But anyway, sounds like a beautiful state, and I think there's a lot of good people up there. But I have to comment real quickly about what the heck is going on in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And this isn't so much of a political discussion as it is about culture and society. So we had, actually before the new year, there was the controversy over Somali daycares or something like that. And I guess by the way, there's apparently daycare is very, very expensive nowadays. I wouldn't know that not having any kids, but that is apparently the case from some of the data I've seen. And a lot of these daycares, I guess they get federal funding. I'm not exactly sure about what exactly all is happening there. Federal funding, maybe even some state funding, and there's probably some political figures involved in that. And that's kind of sort of indirectly led to some of the other craziness that's been going on right now. And so after the new year, there's ICE agents that are in there doing their immigration duties, getting their orders from above. And then you have a lot of people protesting and keeping people from doing their jobs. And, of course, there was the issue about one woman who apparently got in the way and was shot. And whether, people nowadays are, debating in the news as to whether that was really necessary or not. And that spawned these other protests going on, these anti-ICE protests that they've supposedly been happening. And the weather, by the way, up there has been very frigid. Nothing like we occasionally get here in Texas and may have this weekend or whatever. People are still out there protesting. And then there was something this past Sunday about, I don't know, led by that crazy former CNN guy, Don Lemon, apparently brought a bunch of anti-ICE protesters and crashed a church service where it just seems like a reasonable young pastor was preaching, reasonable people who were not able to peacefully gather and worship God in their way. I'm not even sure what kind of church it was. It was definitely a Christian church, and I don't think that really even matters here. I mean, it's emblematic, I think, of so many problems in our society. We just had Martin Luther King Day yesterday, and I know I've done a show on this before, but when he protests, I know the Somali daycares, I don't think there's been a lot of protests on that, but he taught us how to protest, no matter what you think of the man and the rumors about his life or and what have you. I mean, he was a Baptist minister, knew the Bible, knew how to peacefully protest and do it with a great bit of love and decorum. and also realize that freedom of speech in this country does not mean that you have the right to keep people from going about their day and violating their rights for the sake of your speech. And I get so frustrated that people don't know that anymore. And I kind of wish that we could channel Dr. King's ability to peaceful protest and to do good and make positive change as a result of that, as opposed to the crowd that seems to just want to do whatever it wants to do in order to get attention. And I don't, that is for sure society and cultural issue more than any kind of political issue that people could reasonably disagree on. And not only that, but to, barge into a church service where, people are trying to, we've often said, get their batteries charged for the week and maybe get inspired and get hope for lives, because life is a really tough deal sometimes. I mean, my life is pretty good, but I'm dealing with a lot of issues day to day, it seems like, and it can get really overwhelming, and we sometimes wonder if you have any kind of help or friends or family involved with you. It can get very trying. So anyway, they should have the ability to worship God and be with the Lord, pray to the Savior and all those things, and just these things are just so despicable and so attention getting. And anyway, I wish we could kind of get back to that time with Dr. King and his method of doing things, and that there was some danger and risk involved in that, but it has wound up, I think, really working well in the end for civil rights and the betterment of society and our lives here in this country. So when we see stuff like this in Minneapolis and St. Paul and all this, and I'm sure there are some good people there, but I just don't, I don't really see it from what I've seen so far. And so, talking about this protesting, some of the people, the politicians, allegedly the mayor of Minneapolis, they want to talk about love in all this stuff, and none of this stuff that they're doing is very loving at all. And I wanted to take a little bit of time here at the end of the show, kind of do a little bit of a philosophy lesson, and it's also related to my belief in Christianity and Christ, my Christianity, and they don't really know what love is at all. And I got a thing last Tuesday, I think it was. First of all, in the Greek, which the New Testament was written in, there's I don't know if all of them are in there, but there was 4 different words for love in the Greek, as opposed to our one word in English, probably one word in a lot of languages. And I got a thing in my Substack account this week from somebody I subscribed to that really, that was really poignant and really inspired me for that particular day, because I wasn't feeling particularly great or upbeat or optimistic sometimes. I go through those ups and downs, but basically he was talking about we are all loved, but a lot of times it's not particularly overt and magnanimous, and it's not all about romantic love, or, kissy kissy, huggy huggy, romantic, sexy love. A lot of times it's very little stuff. And the little stuff is actually all around us. And whether that, and hopefully I'm summarizing and doing justice to his article, because it was terrific, but it's kind of like our service. We can do little things for people. We don't necessarily have to do big things all the time, but that seems like that's what we shoot for. But in terms of love, it can be very simple as a smile that was sort of unsolicited, really, or a handshake, or even that glance from, a quick glance, not a stare, but a quick glance from perhaps a young lady who finds, for instance, me attractive, and vice versa, and it can even be people from your past who remember good times with you, or maybe not so good times, but they liked having you around. There was something positive in your if it's me and we had some kind of relationship or friendship or whatever, there was something that people felt good about, maybe received out of that relationship, perhaps reciprocal. Excuse me again. And then now that lives have gone a different direction, they're missing you, they like to see you again, that sort of thing. And I think people kind of miss out on those little signals. They're from people, but they also, I think, are from God. Just little expressions of love and people saying that they care. And again, nothing really big, nothing like we normally think about love, like it's a Hallmark movie or something like that, but just little bitty things to make your day a little bit brighter, and to know that you're noticed and accepted and loved, and they're all around us, and you have to think about them a little bit more deeply. You have to maybe, or at least be looking for them. And I was really touched and amazed by that. So, by the way, I believe this Substack account, I'm going to give him a shout out here, is I believe it's called Jour from Mixtapes or something like that. I'm not really sure why he named it that, but there was a great article that he had last Tuesday. That was the 13th, I believe. And just, keep your eyes peeled. I think a lot of people are too busy now with whatever agenda needs to be done that day, and of course we're staring at our phones a lot too, and kind of missing out on some true joys of life by not recognizing that. I don't know if there's even a connection about, maybe there is. I haven't really gotten this deep into my thought and faith life, but if you're thinking about a particular person, does that mean that they're thinking about you, or saying something about a particular person you haven't seen in a while? Are they thinking about you? I don't know, but be on the lookout for these little things, and I think this is a big part of why community is so important, and people don't really realize the impact that they have on other people, even if it's just the smallest of things. Maybe you dealt with them honestly, they knew where they stood with you, or enjoyed your sense of humor, maybe enjoyed your looks. I'm 48 years old, and I still get a lot of looks from the women, and maybe some guys. I don't know. I don't really notice the guys, but it's just there's a lot of simple pleasures out there, and I think we overlook them, and we could make our lives better and help ourselves feel better, because we are all loved in these very simple but not so obvious ways. And I hope I'm conveying that to you as best I can right now. But there's just so much more out there than what I think a lot of us live now, and this is a big central theme, of course, in this show. And of course, I know it was tough for me, just to tell you my personal journey, a little bit about my personal journey. But I was teased, and I guess you could say bullied a fair amount in school, and actually even on into adulthood. It hasn't really stopped, even in the professional world. And I don't know why that is. because the hope was always that people would grow up and that would go away or whatever. But I don't know that everybody, like my mom said, well, people tease you because they like you or they love you. And that was not always the case. I think there was some people who could be very cruel, and then of course this happens at a young age, so you start to wonder, am I really worth it, and why am I so unhappy, and all that stuff. But the reality is, and I know that's difficult for a lot of people to deal with that, but the reality is, there is a lot of love that goes on out there, and people who would enjoyed having you around and would love to see them again. And that's why I'm hoping this fall, I'm sure I'll get notified that there will be another high school reunion. So I'm hoping to do that perhaps this fall. Probably won't be till football season, but we'll have to keep the eyes peeled on that. Anyway, I hope that made a lot of sense. I didn't always agree with my mom on stuff, like people say they tease you if they like you or whatever. I don't think it was all liking. I mean, I think I had a right to my own business back then too, just like people in the church there in St. Paul did this weekend. She also said some other things that didn't really turn out true in practice, like if they're bothering you, then ignore them. And a lot of people still would keep bothering me even if I ignored them. I think that was an early example of people wanting attention and everything. The other thing that I wanted to mention real quick before I wrap up the show this week, I also been reading some other things, but as humans, and this goes back into the my love talk a little bit here, but as humans, we all, whether you believe in godly creation or evolutionary theory or some combination of them, we all really come from the same place. And if that's true, then we really are all one big family, and we are all one. We are all brothers and sisters, whether we want to admit that or not, despite whatever differences that we have. Honestly, most of our thoughts and constitutions and everything, we are the same in many ways. But then in other features, of course, we are similar but different, whether that's, skin color or body shape or hair color or whatever. And so my hope for the world is, in addition to recognizing love in even its simplest forms, giving and receiving love, is that we would recognize each other as a family more than we do the human race as an entire family, regardless of differences of opinion as well as different looks, even though we are very similar in terms of our bodies and minds and all this stuff. And that, I think that would, understanding that connection would help a lot as well, in so many ways. Treating people right. I think it also opens the door to things like, I promote naturism on this show, which is, of course, also sometimes called nudism. And basically, we're talking nude recreation, nothing sexual. We all have similar bodies. Like, they're not, I know they're definitely not the same, but we have similar bodies. We should respect that because we're all one family. We all come from the same place. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying nature and recreation the way God created you. And so just having that mindset should open the doors for a lot of people to try new things and to live the life that I think God really created us to live, and live life to the full. And if you can start to look at things differently and realize certain things, as I have in the last few years, this opens up a brand new world, a larger world to us, and I think a better world. And of course, there's still there's still some risks involved in everything. I mean, not everybody is interested in other people, or protecting personal safety, and or trying to maybe extort you for money or something, whatever. But for the most part, I think people are actually pretty good out there, and we need to look for these good things, all these things that we share, whether it's our need for love, and even in small ways, as well as our shared humanity. So anyway, boy, I don't know, I'm having trouble today. I'm coughing or dry throat. I'm also trying to hold back a burp, which I know is kind of disgusting here on the radio, or the podcast, I should say. But anyway, hopefully those words ring true to you and mean something to you. And I say at the end of the show every week that I love you, and of course, love has several meanings. You're my friends, and I invite you into this place and this space, as I know some people say nowadays, space, the podcast space. So hope to listen to my words, and hopefully it makes your day a little bit better. And I know I sometimes I joke around a lot about a lot of things, and would like to make it a little bit funnier, but I mean, we do have to be pretty serious sometimes on this show, and talking about these issues and all the things in our world, because it is pretty overwhelming, and it does seem to be very mind-blowing a lot of times. One more thing that I'll do here that fits with my the topics I just mentioned here on love and humanity. I was given a verse of the day. Psalm 133, verse 1, how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. That's from the NIV version, one of my favorites. Great footnotes and study notes in there. Probably the best I've ever seen. But that's not just a statement on Christians. I think that's a statement in general about the human family. And like we're all God's people. And how wonderful it is for us to live in some kind of unity. So anyway, if I can get over my tongue and talking all wrongly all the time, I think we can wrap up this show here. Again, just a call to action. Please share the show with whoever you converse with, even strangers. Tell them about Frank Weber, and it's a Frankly Harry podcast, and hit that subscribe button. And I'd love to hear your comments and your direct messages. No bots, please. I actually heard a guy, by the way, there's a guy that I really admire he's got a podcast I listen to sometimes, and he's on social media. A fellow named Zuby, whose family is originally from Nigeria, and he's actually from England or Great Britain, doesn't sound English, and now lives in Dubai, and apparently still travels the world. Saw a post from him recently saying that he's met a lot of people on social media, and I don't know if maybe I can write him about that or what have you, but I have no idea how he's done that with all the bots and temptations and other crazy things that are on there these days. But I guess I'll have to drop him a line somehow or another. So thank you for that inspiration, Zuby. Hopefully I can do that as well. But with that, I will wrap up It's a Frankly Harry podcast. And so glad you could join me again in the forest, and we'll see you again next week. Bye for now, everybody. I love you. Practice love, practice humanity, and see you next week.